Before we get any farther, we need to talk about Python syntax. Syntax is the punctuation and spacing that a programming language uses to separate blocks of code, to tell you or the computer what part needs to be executed when, what part is part of another thing. Syntax is how we do that. In Python, we don't use curly brackets or angle brackets or physical symbols that you can actually see to split code apart, like most programming languages do, like JavaScript or HTML or Java or C. They all use physical symbols to separate blocks of code. Python uses empty space or tabs. So in your code editor, when you type a line of code, let's say an if statement, and you hit return, it puts your cursor not on the very edge, but actually a tab to the right. A tab is 4 spaces. It doesn't look like 4 spaces, and to a computer, it's not actually exactly 4 spaces, but a tab is a chunk of empty space. Python is looking for that empty space to try to organize itself. So when we type out our next line of code, like this, we can see that this line gets drawn from the if and down. And there's a gap between that line and the P in print. That gap right there is a tab. That tells Python that this print statement is part of this if statement. If we did not have it, we would get an error saying that that if statement is empty. See, red squiggly line. It's looking for a tab to tell it that it's part of that condition. Now when we type our else, when we hit return, it's still tabbed in, but that else needs to be connected to the if. So we're going to hit backspace and then type our else. And now we can type in what we want to be part of that else tabbed in. Remember, we can see that gap, and we can see a road connecting the else to the if. If there's no connection here, let's say this else was accidentally tabbed in, well, it's red squiggly. What's wrong? What's wrong with this? Well, the else is looking down the road. It doesn't even see a road to find its buddy, the if. So it says, I'm lost. Tell me where to go. We can tell it where to go by putting it back at the level it needs to be and having the roads connect it.